Hi guys, welcome to episode 54 on the Grapplers Academy. Going back and counting the episodes with...
It's like 54B, C, or... No, 53C.
Yeah.
Or 54.
I think what we do, once we hit 50, we're just not going to get any more episodes.
To be honest, I can't count. I've not got that many fingers and toes, so I just lose count after 10. It's the best thing about being a PT. Every set's just 10 reps.
10 reps.
How many reps have I got left?
10.
2 more?
Yeah, 2 more as well. Always 2 more. It's like you lose track. How many got? Yeah, 2. Yeah, keep going. That's also a good one.
I was concentrating. Are you not counting? I was concentrating on your form.
Yeah.
Which is true. That's not bullshit.
No. See, because I've got a thing where I count with my fingers so I can try and continue like a conversation if they're working where they can talk. And one of my clients goes, what's going on with your hand? And I explain to him the system and he goes, that's fucking weird that.
Do you find, I find that I always count people's reps in the gym even if I'm not PTing them. And I'm just counting people moving out of my peripheral vision. Like 10, 11, 12, yep.
And then when you lose count, you're going 14, 15, finish right.
That's just like if it's no reps.
Yeah.
You know, just didn't do it, didn't count, 14, go again, again,
yeah.
go again.
Keep going.
Hit some fucking depth.
And it's sort of like, I counted 12 there. You should have stopped at 10 then.
Some actual stuff happened in Jiu-Jitsu this week, didn't it?
Yeah.
We were talking before we started recording about the ADCC stuff that happened from this weekend.
Yeah, some really good matches. Like you had, I couldn't get this wrong, but I think it was Cade Ruotola stepped in for Craig Jones, broken hand in his match against, not Craig Jones, sorry. I can't remember who he stepped in for, but he stepped in to face Jimenez. Brilliant match. Starting the card off with those two, you cannot go wrong. Back and forth. Ruotola gets a submission attempt. Both some really nice exchanges. Apparently, the Jimenez wants to make the transition to MMA, and he was going to apparently have a more of a MMA top game focus game. That didn't happen. Ended up getting his back and finishing him with a lovely rear naked, like sunk it in and was just applying that pressure really slowly and found the choke there. And the other highlight match for me got to be Nicky Ryan versus Dante Leon. Like you can see Nicky Ryan his confidence has massively improved, and some flying Nicky Rodriguez style double legs sending Leon across the mat. Some really beautiful come ups from guard into a double leg, and then when the points came in, that's when he started working on his passing, and his body lock passing, it's so nice, like really tight, really close, lots of good hip movement past the guard. I think he ended up getting 6 points up, and unfortunately, like for the last 6 minutes of the match, he had a blown knee, so he had to play a defensive guard game. And I don't know whether Dante realised his knee was injured or anything, but he could not get through his guard. Really, really like nice retention. And even Gordon on the commentary was like, I'm really hoping Dante passes his guard. It's going to give me the blueprint of how to get past it.
We were talking before about how nice that open guard to double leg and single leg attacking is. I've seen it before. And I think it's from those guys as well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it any less nice, and obviously like that's a system that they're perfecting, and it works well when you've got those legit leg attacks.
Yeah.
So you're legitimately threatening the leg entanglements and X guard, all this sort of stuff, but then having that double leg to blast up on as well. We were saying before, because normally it's like if you've got decent reaction speed and you've got that muscle memory for stuff in the double leg, it's pretty hard to get double legged, isn't it? You can see it coming from. Because it's different from MMA. In MMA, you can hide it behind punches.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what they're doing with hiding it behind leg stuff, getting them off balance and doing it from a different angle than people are used to. Because everyone's used to that double leg coming from a drop. So seeing that drop first and then the shot for the double leg is the thing that gives that reaction time. normally. But coming from the bottom up, I suppose it kind of changes your angle that you used to see it come from. And if you're having, if it's some leg lock footsie going on and you're having your balance offset and then coming up on it, if you're not used to training like that, it can probably catch people off guard pretty quick.
Yeah, really off guard, and like especially with how deep he was getting onto the hips as well. Managing to tie it up right behind the hips and just standing up with him, and then like both of them leaving the ground for it. Like anyone who's not seen it, I'd highly recommend watching it.
I mean, Nicky Ryan looks strong.
Huge.
I mean, I don't know what they're on down in Puerto Rico.
So
whether acai's found its way to Puerto Rico or not.
Got to be those Poliquin style anabolic avocados.
I mean, he's been looking big for a while actually. Do you remember him matching? Was it on Polaris against Uriah Faber?
Was it? I remember him against Iminari.
Yeah, he was big. He's looking big and strong, and I don't. What weight class does he compete? Is he like 77?
I think he's under 70.
So I bet he's just freak strong when you get a hold of him. And we can kind of come back to that after we talk about the Mikey Musumeci thing as well. But the funny thing about that before we get into that match is just how pissed off the nicest guy in jiu-jitsu is getting that somebody doesn't want to be his friend.
Like, I don't get it. Like, I've got to admit though, I nearly spat my drink out when I saw him go to shake Gio's hand, and Gio just stared like across the mat at him. Give Gio his credit though. He did afterwards say, "Sorry, I was in the zone. I didn't see you," and sort of apologised across the mat before the match started. But you could sort of see Mikey's face and temperament change straight away. He almost had that sort of, do you know when you take when a kid sees like Santa Claus in the supermarket and it's like the sort of the real knocked off version where he's kind of like looking at it going, this isn't real.
Wait a minute.
Disclaimer: Santa is real. If you if you're that young listening to this podcast.
You've heard some different things.
Yeah.
Still like listening to this podcast. Jerry, Santa Claus is still real. Don't worry about it. He's gonna bring you a nice new leather jacket that Craig Jones might want to wear. So don't get upset. You're not spoiling anything. Make sure you keep writing your letters to Santa. But yeah, it's funny. Like we were talking about it a little bit before as well, weren't we? About the friendliness nature of jiu-jitsu and like the fact that they're competing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Some people call jiu-jitsu fights, matches. It depends how you look at it. It's still a competitive encounter.
Yeah.
And some people just in the zone. They might want to be friends afterwards, or they might be a perfectly friendly person anyway. But when it's time to compete, that's where the focus is.
Yeah.
They might not be bothered about shaking your hand and having a back slap before you get into the match.
No.
So you just got to take it for what it is.
That's it, and because everybody loves it when it's in MMA. Like the Diaz brothers, they were very vocal about leading up to the match. I'm not your friend. I hate you. And after the match, we'll be cool. But leading up to it, we're not friends. And in the build-up video, there was a different tone between both of the fighters. Mikey was saying how him and Gio were friends, and I think he was saying how he looked up to him as a grappler. And Gio, in the build-up video, was like, I don't know him, we're not friends, and after the match, we might be cool, we might go hang out at a bar, we might go and get a drink, but when, up until then, it's war. And, I do see it from both sides, but I've got to say, I probably laughed a little bit harder than I should have at the post-fight interview of Mikey saying how that's not how black belts should condone themselves and conduct themselves, and
you're setting a bad example for the future generation.
It's like, get a different role model. Like, that's why you're the role model to these younger grapplers and Gio's not. Like, you might have people looking up to him, but look up to your parents and how they carry themselves.
If you look at Gio Martinez as your inspiration of how you should conduct yourself on a daily basis on and off the mats, then probably looking in the wrong spots. Like if you're listening to this podcast for serious advice on anything, then you're listening to the wrong thing. But aside from that bullshit, there was actually some really decent grappling, wasn't there?
Yeah. I've got to say, I'm impressed with Kanan's finish as well. The way that he went for the old back step from half guard and entered that heel hook entry and finished in a little, I think it was like 2 minutes, 3 seconds. Lovely snap down to start off with. Went down to the ground and just went through and got a textbook picture perfect heel hook from that back step.
Kanan's a big dude.
Yeah.
And for as much as you like to say that people don't, size shouldn't matter in jiu-jitsu, when they're both equally skilled world champions, like that's where that weight does make a difference.
Yeah.
And just some beautiful jiu-jitsu there. And on the kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got Mikey Musumeci basically making himself cling film on Gio Martinez and taking a different back take on that as well. And kind of brings up that age-old debate of strength versus flexibility. Nobody's getting pissed off at Mikey for having ridiculous flexibility, nor Gio as well. It's quite a nice matchup.
Yeah.
And they had some good exchanges as well. But it's that's where it's there. That's what's the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu. You don't have to be just a strong guy.
No.
Strong guys don't just win all the time at the match. You've got those different attributes that you can play to your advantage.
Lachlan at last year's 2019 games beat Kanan, so it also then brings in the question of tactics. If you're going against a bigger guy, Dennis isn't going to want to play bottom, but would that have been a more appropriate thing to try and get into the guard and tie him up in that way, or is he going to fight for the top against someone who has a clear size and weight advantage and strength advantage?
Yeah. It's like you should be doing if you're in the gym as well, and this applies to everybody listening. If you're a smaller player in the gym, going strength to strength with people who've got like 15-20 kilos on you probably isn't going to be a good idea. You might get away with that if you're fairly strong for your weight against people in your own weight class or lighter. But as soon as you start coming up against people that have got either a significant size advantage on you or a significant strength advantage on you, maybe start looking at playing the Lachlan style where you're going to come underneath and start attacking the legs on the bigger opponents and having a better guard game, having good guard retention so you don't get smashed and passed. You've just got to play to your opponent. You can't just, like some players will get away to a certain point with having their style and just implementing it on everybody.
Yeah.
Most often it's if they're like pretty exceptional in one area. Or they're just an amazing grappler all round. But for the most part, for most players, you're going to have to kind of adapt to the player that's in front of you and work, not always just against them and trying to go through them, but working around them. If they want to be the bull and come at you hard, you've got to be able to go around that and navigate their strength and use that against them.
I also think as well it's worth mentioning that in the gym as well, use your attributes accordingly. So if you're both, say, similar level, or even if you're a huge blue belt going against a smaller purple or brown belt, where you know that you're going to find something if you out-muscle them, because there are those players around, maybe try relying less on those and try and have a bit more of a technical battle as well.
You're going to get more out of that round in that example by relaxing and not using your 100% strength.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee that the player that you're playing against as well is probably going to appreciate that a bit more and be willing to give you more feedback that's going to be helpful for you as well.
Oh, 100%.
Because if you're just the massive guy who's just going to crush somebody who's got a better skill than you and try and not take advantage of using their skill set and trying to extract it, they're probably just going to try and get out of that stupid crossface pressure that you're putting on, which is great if you can keep them there and hold it and match your style. But they're going to get out of that and then just try and slap a quick sub on you, most likely.
Yeah.
And then just say, let's go again. And just keep going and going. And if you keep making the same mistake and just coming at them hard with that hard punch, and then you're getting countered and you're getting swept, you're putting your weight too heavy and you're getting swept, or you're getting a sub every time, like maybe tone it down a little bit and take that as a subtle message, like let's play jiu-jitsu, let's not play who's stronger.
Yeah. Because there's a time and a place for all types of different rounds, so it's kind of pick your poison for when you are going into the rounds. Because I think we spoke about it last week when we mentioned the GSP podcast, where it's use certain rounds for play, because that is when you're going to learn a lot more than just trying to go full tilt every round. You're only going to be working one aspect of your game, and that's your comp game. Whereas, what about your escapes? Because if you never end up on your back in side control, or with somebody on your back, or having to defend something, when someone of a higher skill level or similar skill level but better attributes push you in those positions, you're going to come unstuck.
One of my favourite memes, hands down, I always think about it when I've had one of those rounds, is the GSP quote when he's in the ring with Matt Hughes after his match. And he's like, "I'm not impressed by your performance."
Yeah.
Which feel like getting up after the end of a shitty roll with somebody when you've just done something stupid all the way through and saying that. But it's true though, isn't it? It's like if you are the heavier guy and you're going against somebody who's lighter, yeah, guess what? We all know that you're stronger.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you're not competing against those people. If you're competing regularly and you're trying to improve your grappling for competition, then either put those tactics only into place against people who are the same weight category as you. If you're at a gym where everybody's smaller than you, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to try and get that same level as well, because you can put a bit of pressure on your smaller training partners and get used to that squeeze, because it is important against the bigger guys.
Yeah.
Maybe go and find some open mats where you can go against some bigger opponents as well, so you can get that kind of competition practice in there. But if you kind of play like a small player and get those finer details that the smaller, more experienced players are able to show you in the gym, that is like significantly different from somebody who's just got strength as an attribute. The cliche often says that you're better off learning grappling from a small player.
Yeah.
That's not always necessarily true, because a good coach should be able to adapt techniques for different body styles and different attributes. But just take out of it the thing that's going to be most useful from you, like just smashing somebody who's got 20 kilos less weight than you with a crossface pressure and thinking that's you won the round isn't winning the round.
Yeah.
Even if they're a couple of belts higher than you, like, it doesn't really matter.
No.
You're not taking anything out of it, and you just we say this. How often do we say this on here, that you're just putting yourself at a detriment by being like stubborn and pig-headed with strength in particular?
Well, the same thing like we spoke before, loss has to be said for those that are hyper flexible. So if you got one of those guards where you can touch your edge of your ankles, how much experience are you really going to get when someone does get past your guard? How much experience are you going to get of escaping, back control, mount, if you never really expose yourself to those positions? Like, I'm sure we've both had them where you're in a round and you've got someone who sits there like the Meow Brothers, pretty much folded in half, and it's just a stalemate because you can't work. Like, for me, I enjoy it because I'm working against a tricky guard, so I am taking things from it. But the person on bottom, all they're doing is working on their guard game, whereas if they've got a hole like their side control defence, like their mount defence, like their back defence, or even their attacks from top, what are they taking from that role? And then it is cliche where it's those types of plays when you do get past the guard, oh, you're so strong, you're too strong, you're using too much strength here, you're using too much power here. It's like, well, hang on, you can tick all the back of your head of your toes. Like, you rely on that attribute. So if you're using that attribute, I'm going to use my attribute. And it just so happens that my attribute ended up beating yours.
I think the other point from what you were making there as well, which is a good one, is like, you like the novelty of going against that player.
Yeah. Because
that's not what you've seen in a lot of the rounds in the gym, like, because everyone's got a little bit of a different style and they give you a different look. Flip that on its head for a second, and if you're the guy who's playing that style all the time, this applies for anybody. You've just got one style of play, and you're basically forcing every player that you play with to play your game.
Yeah.
You're not exposing yourself to different looks.
No.
So it's like, right, okay, cool, I'm rolling with Sai, I know he's going to butt scoot and try and leg attack me or tickle his ears with his toes. Like, everybody knows what round you're going to get when you go with that guy. So it's like, right, cool, I'll play that with this guy, and then I'm going to go and play with Sai, and we're going to have some wrestling, or we're going to have a good stand-up exchange, or I'm going to be underneath because he's got a good top game or whatever. You know, everybody else is getting those different looks and getting to play different aspects of jiu-jitsu, whereas you're playing that one game all the time, and you might get pretty good at it, but when you either come up against somebody who's seen that, or is better than it than you, or their attributes counter your attributes, and now you're in a shitty position, guess what? All that time you've spent practicing this one thing has done you no favours, because you've got a shit top game, you can't have good guard retention, and you're just going to put yourself in a position where you've got no cards left in your deck. You know, you're holding an ace, and that's it, and everybody else is playing poker with like a full hand. So just think about what you're doing. It doesn't just apply to like the leg locker, the butt scooter, the top pressure guy, the heavy crossface pressure guy. It's like, be well rounded as possible. But that's another thing we were talking about as well just before, about those levels of consciousness of where the holes are in your game early on. Kind of seems like at the end of white belt, beginning of blue belt, you start to think, you get a bit of awareness about what you're good at and what you need to improve on. It's like, shit, I'm getting passed all the time, or like I can't finish from the top, or I can't escape from the bottom. And it's those are the first signs of like you starting to improve a game and start to work on an aspect of it. Because the players that learn quick and do well are the ones that will then put themselves in that position, or reach out to the more experienced players in the gym and be like, I'm really struggling to finish from the top, you know, like what can I do to increase my chances? Versus the guy who's just like, I just win by crossface. And just does that for all the way through till, you probably get away with that up until blue belt or into blue belt, and then you're fucked.
100%. Like, I was having this conversation with one of my students last night, where we were sort of just talking about ways to improve your game against less experienced players. And my personal solution to this is isolate your rounds and isolate your attacks. So if you're really good at standing passing to the left, get working passing to that right. If you know your Kimura game isn't that good, Kimuras only. If you really struggle from escaping bottom side control, starting bottom side control, and then every time there's a need for a reset, whether it's a sub or whatever reason, get back to bottom side control, get back there. And there are some players where you can play that whole, alright, I'm going to regard, sweep, take side control. I'll almost not give it to them on a plate, but let them work out the position, get me back into that position, and then allow myself to be put back into a vulnerable position and then escape again. And both players are getting something out of it. The less experienced players getting experience in, oh shit, I've just been swept, my guy's been passed, I need to stay calm and composed, and then I need to regard, find my sweep, and then get back on top. So they're getting reps against a live experienced opponent who can talk them through it if they want, or leave purposeful gaps where they need to maybe get the knee through or get the frame in, and talk them through it, and then get back to that position and then hustle again to get back. So it's using your rounds intelligently when you're in the gym, like, because with everything back open now, the club's timetable has got the fundamentals, advanced, comp classes and things like that, and I've made it clear to all the students that the comp classes are for your hard, horrible rounds, or the nights when there's no comp class on, so we've got 2 a week. And at the open mat have your hard rounds, but during the actual advanced classes and things like that, when you're rolling, play, experiment, develop your game, add new tools, take away tools that you might find not useful anymore, but use those rounds to develop, rather than just going full tilt, trying to run through and smash as many plays as you can.
It's a fine balance, isn't it, between if you've got a good tool that you are good at, like keeping it sharp enough that it's there when you need it, but not using it too much that you become over reliant on it. And I know that when I was trying to make a transition onto playing some new stuff a couple of years ago, like trying to pull away from it a little bit, but still use it enough that I know it's still there when I want it. And it is tough to kind of get a balance because, you know, it's difficult to learn more than one system at once.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've got a good top game and you've got bad guard retention, then, you know, you're going to get subbed or passed a lot if you just go from like, right, okay, I'm going to let people put me in this position where I'm going to have to defend my guard and I've got no other choice. Probably going to end up in side control a lot. You're probably going to end up getting subbed a lot more. But the plus side on that is, you know, one, you're working on your guard retention. As a secondary benefit, you get to work on your re-guarding from side control or sweeps or whatever. And just back to what you were saying as well, is win those rounds where you kind of letting somebody get to the position that you want to work from as a weakness.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about when you're doing those sorts of rounds is that your opponents kind of like, you can see how quick they can learn, because if you say, like, you do a sweep on them, you're doing one particular sweep, they're going to pick up on what you've done off the first time, and they're going to learn from it the second time. And if you do, great, now you've got to figure out a little different piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then if they figure out that on the second time, now what's the third thing? And it's just going down the path of like potential escapes, blocks, this and that, and it just tightens everything up.
Oh, definitely.
And you go and do it with another player, and they might show you 3 different other things as well that you've not even thought about. And by the time you put it all together, that's when you start to develop a really good, solid game.
Yeah.
Because you've seen lots of different looks, and that's why it's important to do that, what we've talked about before, that kind of catch and release system.
Yeah.
Where you do enough that you need to do to get to the position where you pretty much either could do the finish, or you're 95% of the way where you want to be, and then give your opponent that room to escape or do something, and then you're learning at the same time, as well as just getting the sub zone. You need to get your reps in it, finishing it, so you can feel what that sensitivity of getting the sub feels like, or where you need to put your pressure to do the sweep or whatever it is, but also giving enough time to let your opponent figure it out, because that's going to benefit them as well. And the better that your training partners can get at defending the stuff that you're good at, the better your good stuff's going to get.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I call them ABC chains. So like, we'll use the scissor sweep from guard as an example. So first time you catch it, you may not need to be as tight on the arm. Your collar grip can be a strong one, and just getting a good chop will get it. Next time you get to it, they're going to try and base. So then you have to tighten up the arm and then go for it again. Next time they might step up, so you have to adjust your foot placement. Next time they might not even let you get the collar grip, so you have to work on getting your collar grip. So each time you're getting a different reaction, so you're troubleshooting. So when you do come against it, say in a competition or at an open mat against an experienced player, you've got option A, option B, option C, and then it can even go, okay, I've had to go to option C, but this splits off now to C1, C2, C3, and you're building like an encyclopedia of different moves, and you're gonna have that. What is it? Is it the appendices?
What, in like the back of the book where you've got the...
Yeah. You're going to build one of those in your brain where you've got instant access to, okay, they're posted now with this arm here, I know what I need to do here. And then those reaction times get lightning fast the more you expose yourself to it.
It's like we were talking about at the beginning with the Nicky Ryan shooting up from the doubles off the leg lock game or the open guard. You know, that you can guarantee you're seeing that reaction a lot in the gym, coming up against people who haven't looked at it a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like when you go to an open mat or competition, there's another example of it, but you might have this one like really good tool that you go to an open mat with that everybody in your gym is good at defending, because you do it all the time. But then you go to this open mat and you're just cutting through people like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah.
Like, this is fucking great. Like, you know, because it's sometimes difficult when you're in your gym to gauge your progress, because everybody's getting good at the same time as you're getting good, and they're getting good around the stuff that you're good at.
Yeah.
So they're going to come up with those counters as well at the same time, and it can be, I've heard people say it's quite frustrating and demoralising, like, I'm not getting any better, I'm not subbing this guy, I'm not getting the same stuff that I used to get on them, but it's because they're learning off what you're doing as well.
Yeah.
And then you take it away into comp or an open mat against people who are not used to seeing it, and all those micro adjustments that you've been doing over the months really pay off. And that's where you get a really tight sub where the person hasn't seen it enough, they don't know what to do, and you just lock it up tight. But it sometimes works in the other way as well, doesn't it? You think you've got a mint game, let's say you've got a really good Kimura or something like that, and you take it to an open mat, and guess what? They've got somebody in their gym that's better at you than Kimuras.
Yeah.
And they've got mega defense on it, and then they reverse it and switch it back up on you. It's like, That's an eye-opening moment as well.
Yeah,
because it's now like shit. Like these guys know what I'm good at, and they're better at it at me. So what can I take from that? And it works both ways. Every opportunity is a good learning opportunity.
No, definitely. And like you say, when you come across those, drop the message afterwards, ask them about it, ask them after the round, but don't ask me round. Like, wait till the round's ended, unless they offer you the information, but save the questions and the talking for after the rounds. And
definitely don't be about to get tapped because you just got your guard passed and then he got you in a guillotine and go, how did you do that on me? That's the biggest knobhead move you can do. Take a sub and accept it.
Or I've genuinely seen this. Get caught in the sub and then offer a better way to put the sub on.
When you've just been tapped out to it.
Yeah. And then also offer the escape that you were going to do, but you didn't do.
Because you just let me get that.
Yeah. I've seen that on numerous occasions. Don't be that person. Before we round up, we had another great grappling display in the UFC on the weekend. Islam Makhachev.
Yep.
I'm probably saying his name wrong because I've heard that a dozen different pronunciations.
We'll go with the one that best fits.
I'm just going to say Makhachev. Great display. Just comes to my head then at the end of the just a minute then. Really good wrestling, great striker as well, and his opponent, I didn't know too much about his opponent to be honest with you, but his opponent looked decent and dangerous, but he got to that third round and it just seemed to break him. And yeah, if you've not seen that fight, I'd highly recommend it, especially those who are wanting to transition to MMA. That's how you grapple for MMA. Again, it's just another display of how Khabib does his thing. And control, punch, transition, look for submission, nope, go back to control, punch.
Did we talk about Ryan Hall getting knocked out the other week?
I can't remember, but...
So it's like I've spoken to, I think we did talk about this actually, speaking to a couple of people beforehand, they were like, oh, he's just going to Iminari roll and leg lock in 30 seconds and it'll be done. Kind of hit a spinning back kick, fell over, kind of went for a leg entanglement off the back and just got a hammer fist. We've talked about this last week.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like two different styles of jiu-jitsu and kind of goes back to, not saying that he's not got the tricks in the back, but if you've got that same one trick and people are expecting it, then they can anticipate it.
Especially where people can punch you in the face.
Or
in a jiu-jitsu match, it's different.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna find that entry because they kind of want to engage in the grappling. If someone's there to knock you out and you're gonna do a half-assed Iminari roll and not really finish it because you expect to finish it, you're gonna get knocked out.
And my coach Matt would say the same, and I'm sure Cam would say the same as well. If it's MMA, don't just sit on your back.
Yeah.
You're going to get punched. It's not the time to start playing butt scooting and leg locking in MMA. Try and be dominant on top, keep the top pressure, punch him in the face. It's not jiu-jitsu. I've seen plenty of people going for Iminari rolls and accidentally get kneed in the head in a grappling match.
Yeah.
Think how then easy it is when somebody's actually trying to knee you in the face. So now when a guy Iminari rolls and gets soccer kicked in the head on the way down.
Not seen that one yet.
You've got to be pretty good at setting it up, and it's like we were talking about how to set up double legs in MMA behind punches and why it's so much more difficult to get a double leg in just grappling than it is in MMA. It's because you can hide it behind stuff.
Yeah.
So like if you want to start doing Iminari rolls in MMA, I don't know why Iminari rolls like the most popular thing that people who don't really train MMA want to try and do. Probably because it looks as flash as doing a flying armbar.
Yeah.
But like you've got 1 million things to focus and practice on before you even start ever thinking about trying to Iminari roll in a jiu-jitsu match, let alone an MMA match.
No, 100% couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more, sorry.
I 100% could not agree with what you said.
One other thing as well, actually. I don't know why it's just dawned on me. I've always known taking someone down near the cage is better, but it's only really just dawned on me is that when you're shooting in, they can't sprawl on you because they can't send the feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just clicked over the weekend.
Light bulb moment.
Yeah, I was like, that's why. But yeah, I just thought.
Have you seen like just quickly before we finish up? Have you seen the quick instructional from Khabib on BJJ Fanatics?
Not yet, no.
It's a huge honor for me. So what he was talking about when he gets that leg entanglement mount is not just like, people wrapping the legs. People think that Khabib leg wrap is just wrap the legs and pinch. Hips in.
Oh yeah.
Hips in and down was the big thing. So it's that down pressure with the hips as well. Kind of like you do when you're arm barring or you knee barring somebody from the top. So you wrap the legs and then hip pressure in.
Because I always notice as well that the detail that often gets missed as well is he crosses the legs over when he does it. So he's intentionally trying to get your legs crossed. So again, it's more difficult for you to get your legs free.
Knee bar the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on that note, I hope everyone's enjoying the training this week as we are legally allowed to grapple now.
Yeah, free cuddles for everybody.
Yay. But yeah, make sure you hit us up. We should have done this at the start of the podcast, but like, follow, share, drop a comment below. If you're on the digital streaming platforms, make sure you subscribe and follow. And we've got the Bonafide PT, coached by Sai. We are the Grapplers Academy.